So I recorded some content this weekend on abortion. There is a podcast conversation between me and a dear friend of mine who is going to be voting for Harris in Texas this election. And we entered some like really fascinating conversational spaces. Um, yeah, and I really appreciated having that conversation as a demonstration of exploring the nuance of sticky political questions with differing perspectives while still maintaining mutual respect for each other. And since then, I've been doing a bit more research on abortion myself. And there is a little bit of shame in me in acknowledging that it took me this long to like really dive into this really important subject matter. And in through this conversation, through other conversations I've had that are not recorded, and through my own research, I've actually landed in this place where I get it now why for many women and many humans this election is a single issue election. I get it. I get it that, and the frame I'm holding is that some people want to really punish Trump for overturning Roe v. Wade in the role he played in overturning Roe v. Wade, which I understand better now because looking at the details of Roe v. Wade, it seems like a pretty reasonable abortion policy to have, in my opinion. First trimester left entirely to the woman. Second trimester, the state can regulate, but only in reasonably related to the health of the woman. Third trimester, state could regulate or even prohibit abortions. It seems reasonable to me, and at the same time I can see why certain communities which have a more spiritual bent of mind, spiritual orientation, could oppose it. And I looked up some like related stuff around Minnesota's abortion law, and it seems like Minnesota, it is legal up to late stage pregnancy. This definitely feels like abhorrent to me. It like really feels like it is murder at that stage. It does say here that they're generally rare and would be subject to medical consideration. But these are like really tricky subjects because once the culture normalizes something, what becomes rare, what is like an acceptable medical circumstance, like the boundary can just keep shifting for that once the culture normalizes it and is not attuned to the horror. Looked up some stuff for California, and then I looked up Trump's comments on nationwide abortion ban, and it seems that he clarified. He's taking the stance that he's going to veto any federal abortion ban. At the same time, it's something he kept silent on for the longest period of time, which actually then, in my mind, validates the Harris campaign's lies, essentially, like that Trump is going to ban abortion nationwide, forcing him to like come forth and clarify. Like if he's not presenting it forthright himself, then I think it feels reasonable to me that the opponent essentially like drums up the noise so that he is forced to speak to it. Then I looked at like the state of abortion legislation in the different states, and yeah, I was like reading some like really horrific stuff, specifically in Louisiana, which was like no exceptions for rape or incest. I remember reading some article in Louisiana specifically, where it was either Louisiana or Georgia, where a OBGYN doctor testified in when their state was legislating and talked about how like once you see a teenage girl who has been like raped give birth clutching her teddy bear, like that's a sight you can't unsee. And I felt that viscerally in my being, in just the parts of me that are very attuned to childhood sexual trauma and childhood sexual abuse. Like it's so horrific. And in response to that, another like the conservative this conservative woman who was also a part of the state legislature spoke about how you know to make amends for the horror meted out on an innocent being, punishing the perpetrator is right. She talks about how like, yeah, she would hang the perpetrator on High Street if she could, but punishing another innocent being is not right. And there is something about that reasoning that like really aligns well with my own orientation around justice. And you know, it brings to my mind just that the absence of community village support structures, or perhaps like not the absence but the weakness of community support structures in the US as compared to the culture where I come from, where I met someone who had, an adult woman who had a pregnancy with her boyfriend, who then, but they weren't married, so he decided to leave her after she got pregnant, and she decided to go forward with having the baby. And there was a lot of taboo associated for that with her and the community she was in, but at the end of the day, like, she received support from the community to raise the baby, and to the best of my awareness, like, she seems to be doing well with the baby. Now this is a very different scenario than childhood rape, and at the same time, yeah, there is definitely like a community fabric that is missing in American society, American culture, um, around like raising kids, raising babies, which, when JD Vance speaks more holistically about wanting to support families in the US, like, I really feel seen in my assessment that is missing right now in the US, and it excites the part of me that is considering starting a family here in the US, that a politician would understand that that kind of family structure is missing. So, and at the same time, like, I can just, yeah, wonder what happens with these like young girls who are being impregnated by their fathers, uncles, grandfathers, who are unable to have an abortion, and then the baby grows up, and if the baby also experiences like sexual abuse, like, it is so horrific to just sit with what happens. And yeah, I don't know what the, yeah, somehow still like having, letting these humans have the option to safely abort a baby feels right for me, which in a way like aligns with where what Trump's statements have been, that he would veto, like, he supports exceptions for rape, incest, which, horrifically is not present in many of these like state laws. Like, yeah, it's pretty horrific for me to see the Louisiana state law specifically. Yeah. It's a really tricky question, specifically around progressivism and how do we support. Yeah, like another frame that I'm seeing on this abortion question with regards to the federal implementation of Roe v. Wade and the states opposing that is this question of can progress be imposed upon a culture that doesn't want it? Um, like, if you track the history of Afghanistan, like the US attempting to bring democracy to Afghanistan and spending so much, like trillions of dollars, like many lives lost in the war to bring like democracy to Afghanistan, and Hamid Karzai being overthrown by the Taliban like right after the US left. So it really, like, as terrible as it is sometimes, yeah, it really like cements my belief that the progress has to come from the grassroots. And my provocation to humans who are oriented progressively on abortion and childhood sexual trauma is to move to these places that need grassroots movements to bring forth education and progress. And I also understand that if this election is a single issue election for you, yeah, I get it. It makes sense to me that some would want to punish Trump absolutely for like overturning Roe v. Wade. I get that. And I support that for you if that's where you are. And at the same time, I feel like, yeah, the progress on this subject needs to happen at the community grassroots level. Like, it cannot be enforced by the feds at the top. Like, it's just it polarizes the country when that is enforced. I mean, there is historical precedence for something like that, specifically the Civil War, and the question is this issue worth a civil war to kind of enforce from the federal level? And I don't know, there's parts of me that feel, yeah, like childhood sexual trauma is worth a civil war, but it's not like, New York has childhood sexual abuse too. Just by allowing the baby to be aborted, that's like one solution for that issue, but it's, the person is still gonna continue getting raped. So yeah, that's the provocation I'd like to end with. Like, if you are progressively oriented and if you feel so deeply for these communities where like, say you're from West Virginia and now you live in California or New York, and you feel deeply for the state of abortion laws in West Virginia, like, move back, like, move there and, bring about grassroots change. I think that would be really amazing if people did that. It's something I've considered for myself too, like moving back to India and bringing about the change that I want to bring about. I'll just stop this here. I'm going to be uploading this video and the video interview with Ryan, my brother, discussing abortion together. So check it out and let me know if you have any thoughtful comments. Try your best to breathe as you're commenting, so it's not reactive. Like, it's not good for your system, it's not good for me to receive it either. let's try and like explore creating like harmonious conversations on the internet. And I've been guilty of having triggered shares too. I'll own that, and yeah, I really want to bring more harmonious conversations. All right, that's all for today. Take care, and best of luck. I hope you stay safe, soothed, regulated as the election results come in. There is a lot to be done on the grassroots, even if at the federal level, the result that comes through is not one that you agree with. Take care. Bye bye.